The glass doors slid open with a soft, controlled whisper, letting in a slice of afternoon light that spilled across the polished floor. The place smelled like money, leather, fresh wax, a hint of espresso lingering in the air. Every surface gleamed. Chrome edges caught reflections. Cars sat under perfect lighting like museum pieces, flawless and waiting. She stepped inside without hesitation. Her coat was simple but well cut, the kind of tailoring that didn't need labels to announce its worth. Her posture was relaxed, shoulders back, chin level. Not stiff. Not trying. Just sure. The faint click of her heels echoed as she walked past the first row of vehicles, her eyes scanning details most people overlooked. Panel gaps, tire tread, the way the lights reflected off the paint. This place had been built to impress. And it had. A salesman near the entrance glanced at her, then looked away almost immediately. Another stood laughing with a well-dressed couple near the coffee machine, gesturing animatedly toward a luxury SUV. Someone else pretended to be busy rearranging brochures. She slowed near a deep blue coupe positioned on a raised platform. The paint was flawless, so dark it almost looked black until the light hit it just right. She reached out and let her fingertips rest lightly on the hood, feeling the cool metal beneath her skin. For just a second, her expression softened, not pride exactly, but recognition. Familiarity. She waited. 30 seconds passed. Then a minute. The hum of conversation continued around her, low and selective. Shoes crossed behind her. Laughter rose and fell. Still no one approached. No greeting. No polite, "Can I help you?" The silence wasn't accidental. It was curated. She turned slightly, catching her reflection in the windshield. Calm face. Steady eyes. No sign of irritation. She'd learned long ago that impatience gave people power they didn't deserve. Another minute passed. Finally, a man in a tailored suit approached, not with a welcoming smile, but with the expression of someone dealing with an inconvenience. His steps were sharp, efficient, like he already wanted the interaction to be over. "Can I help you?" he asked, though the tone suggested the opposite. She met his gaze. "I'd like to test drive this model." She didn't point. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't explain herself. Just a simple statement, delivered with certainty. His eyes flicked briefly to the car, then back to her. He looked her up and down in a way that was quick but thorough, the kind of look that categorized instead of understood. Something in his expression shifted, not surprise, not curiosity, but judgment. "Test drives are by appointment," he said. "We don't usually do walk-ins for this line." "I'm ready now," she replied. He exhaled through his nose, lips tightening. "These vehicles are premium. We prioritize serious buyers." The words landed exactly how he intended them to. Around them, the room subtly changed. A few conversations quieted. Someone nearby pretended to scroll on their phone while listening. The air felt thinner, charged with something unspoken. She didn't react the way he expected. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a set of keys, not flashy, not ostentatious. She let them rest in her palm for a moment before closing her hand around them again. "I am a serious buyer," she said calmly. He didn't even look at the keys. "I'm sure," he replied, voice flat. "But this dealership maintains standards." There it was. She tilted her head slightly, studying him, not defensively, not angrily. The way a person studies a problem they already understand. "Can you tell me your name?" she asked. The question seemed to catch him off guard. His eyebrows drew together. "My name?" he repeated. "Yes." He hesitated, then straightened, as if reclaiming authority. "Why?" "I like to know who I'm speaking to," she said. A faint smile crossed his face, thin and humorless. "You can call me the manager." She waited. Just long enough to make the silence uncomfortable. "Your name," she repeated. His jaw tightened. "It's on the badge." She glanced at it briefly, committing it to memory. "Thank you?" Something about her tone unsettled him. It wasn't submissive. It wasn't confrontational. It was measured. As if she were taking notes. He crossed his arms. Is there anything else? Yes, she said. I'd like to speak with one of your sales associates. We're busy, he replied quickly. As you can see. She looked around. One associate avoided her eyes entirely. Another suddenly became very interested in straightening a display that didn't need it. The couple by the coffee machine watched openly now, curiosity flickering across their faces. I can wait, she said. He scoffed quietly. That won't be necessary. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but focus. Why not? Because, he said, lowering his voice as if offering advice, this place isn't what you think it is. She held his gaze. And what do you think I think it is? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The assumption sat between them, heavy and unmistakable. A security guard shifted closer. Not enough to intervene. Just enough to send a message. She took a slow breath in. Then out. I'm asking for a test drive, she said again. That's all. The manager glanced toward security, then back to her. I'm going to have to ask you to step aside. On what grounds? You're disrupting the showroom. A quiet murmur rippled through the room. Someone near the entrance whispered, This is getting uncomfortable. Another lifted their phone slightly, camera angled just enough to capture the moment. She felt the eyes on her. The weight of them. The familiar pressure that came when people decided who you were before you spoke another word. Still, she didn't move. Instead, she asked softly, Is this how you treat all potential customers? He leaned in just a fraction, voice tight and controlled. This conversation is over. She nodded once. Slowly. Then she reached into her bag again. This time, she didn't pull out keys. She pulled out her phone. The manager watched, irritation flickering into something sharper. What are you doing? She unlocked the screen. Scrolled once. Selected a contact. Making a call, she said. To who? He asked, almost mocking. She raised the phone to her ear, eyes never leaving his face. You'll see, she said. The line connected. And in that moment, before a single word was spoken, the balance of the room shifted, even if no one realized it yet. The manager's patience snapped the moment he saw the phone in her hand. Put that away, he said sharply, the politeness gone now. This is a private business. She didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on the showroom floor ahead of her, the reflections of cars stretching endlessly across polished tile. The phone pressed lightly to her ear as it rang. Once. Twice. Around them, the space felt tighter. Conversation stopped pretending not to listen. A man near the espresso machine leaned back slightly to get a better view. The couple who had been smiling minutes ago now stood stiff, unsure whether to keep watching or look away. The manager took a step closer, lowering his voice. You're causing a scene. She ended the call before anyone could hear the voice on the other end. No, she said quietly. You are. His face flushed. Security, he called out, louder this time. I need you here. The guard stepped forward fully now. Big frame. Neutral expression. Hands folded in front of him. He didn't touch her, but his presence was meant to do the talking. Ma'am, the guard said, eyes flicking briefly to the manager for confirmation. I'm going to need you to step outside. She finally turned to face him. Her gaze was calm, steady, unafraid. Am I being trespassed? She asked. The guard hesitated. He wasn't used to that question. Not phrased that way. Not said with that kind of composure. Aye, sir? He glanced back at the manager. Yes, the manager said immediately. She's refusing to comply. She let out a slow breath. Refusing to comply with what, exactly? With leaving, he snapped. You were told we can't help you. She looked around the showroom again. At the cars. At the staff. At the people watching. She noticed how easily discomfort turned into silence. How no one spoke up when it wasn't their dignity on the line. I asked for service, she said. You refused. That doesn't make me a problem. The manager laughed, short and sharp. You don't get to decide how this works. The words landed like a challenge. Someone near the door whispered, This is messed up. Another person raised their phone higher now, no longer hiding it. The lens pointed straight at the confrontation. The manager noticed. His jaw clenched. Phones away, he barked. This is private property. But it was too late. The moment was already spreading, slipping out of the room through screens and whispers. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't argue. She simply stepped half a pace closer to the car she'd first touched, placing her hand on the hood again. The gesture was small, almost tender, but it made the manager visibly uncomfortable. Don't touch the vehicle, he said. Why? She asked. It's not for you. There it was again. Clearer this time. Louder. The guard shifted his weight. Ma'am, please. She looked at him, not unkindly. Are you going to remove me physically? He swallowed. I don't want to. Then don't. The manager threw his hands up. Unbelievable. You walk in here, act entitled, refuse to leave, start recording. I didn't record, she said. You made a call, he shot back. Like that's supposed to scare me. She turned to him slowly. It wasn't for you. His smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. Then he scoffed. Who did you call? Your lawyer? No. Your husband? He added, the implication hanging ugly in the air. Her eyes hardened for the first time. I called someone who signs your paychecks, she said. A ripple moved through the room. Subtle. Electric. The manager laughed again, louder this time, but it sounded strained. That's rich. She met his laughter with silence. Seconds ticked by. Nothing happened. He relaxed slightly. See? Nothing. You think every place works the way you imagine it does? She slipped her phone back into her bag. You're very confident for someone who hasn't asked a single question. I don't need to, he replied. I know exactly what this is. And what is it? She asked. Someone trying to prove a point. She nodded slowly. You're right. His smile returned, smug. Then we're done here. Not quite, she said. The doors slid open behind them. This time, the sound was louder. Heavier. Footsteps followed. Fast. Purposeful. The manager didn't turn at first. He was still focused on her, convinced the moment belonged to him. It wasn't until the security guard's posture stiffened that he sensed something had changed. A man in a dark suit crossed the threshold, scanning the room urgently. Another followed. Then a third. Their expressions were not casual. They weren't browsing. They weren't impressed by the cars. They were looking for someone. The first man spotted her. Relief flashed across his face. There you are, he said, breathless. We were told you were on site. The room went completely silent. The manager froze. The man approached her quickly, lowering his voice. I'm sorry we didn't know you were coming today. The manager turned, confusion twisting into alarm. Excuse me, who are you? The man ignored him entirely, eyes fixed on her. Are you okay? She nodded once. I will be. The manager's mouth opened, then closed. One of the other men glanced at the manager's badge, then back at her, recognition dawning in his eyes. Oh, he said quietly. The manager followed his gaze. His face drained of color. The room felt like it tilted. She looked at the manager now, really looked at him. Not with anger. Not with triumph. With something colder. Final. You asked what this was? She said evenly. This is accountability. The manager tried to speak. No words came out. Behind him, every phone in the room was recording now. And the truth, heavy, undeniable, was about to land. The silence stretched longer than anyone expected. It wasn't the awkward kind that begged to be filled. It was the kind that pressed down on the chest, heavy and undeniable. Every sound in the showroom felt amplified: the soft hum of the lights, the distant whir of air conditioning, the faint click of someone's phone camera adjusting focus. The man who had rushed in first straightened his jacket, suddenly aware of every eye in the room. He looked from her to the manager, then back to her again, as if hoping this was all a misunderstanding that could still be quietly corrected. "We didn't receive notice," he said carefully. "If we had—" She raised a hand, stopping him without touching him. The gesture was small, controlled, final. "That's the point," she said. The manager laughed weakly, trying to reclaim ground that had already crumbled beneath his feet. "This is ridiculous," he said. "You can't just walk in here and—" The man in the suit finally turned toward him. His expression was no longer confused. It was tight, controlled, professional in the way that only came from years of handling expensive mistakes. "Lower your voice," he said. The manager blinked. "Excuse me? You heard me." A murmur rippled through the onlookers. The security guard shifted back a step, instinctively distancing himself from a sinking ship. She moved then, not toward the exit, not away from the car, but toward the center of the showroom. Each step was deliberate, calm, unhurried. The kind of movement that made people unconsciously straighten their posture. She reached into her bag again, this time pulling out a slim leather folder. She opened it and placed it gently on the hood of the blue coupe. "Before we go any further," she said, "I'd like everyone here to understand something." She opened the folder. Inside were documents, clean, organized, unmistakable. Contracts. Financial statements. Expansion plans. Her finger rested on a signature at the bottom of one page. "Do you recognize this?" she asked, sliding the paper toward the man in the suit. He didn't even have to read it fully. His eyes widened the moment he saw the signature. "Yes," he said quietly. "I do." The manager leaned forward, squinting. "What is that supposed to be?" The man didn't answer him. He looked up at her instead. "This is the final approval for the acquisition," he said. "From 3 years ago." She nodded. "The one that kept this dealership open when others were shutting down." A low gasp escaped someone near the entrance. The manager's face went pale. "That doesn't mean—" She turned to him slowly. "It means you're standing on a floor I paid to polish." The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. They landed with surgical precision. The man beside her swallowed. "You're the majority stakeholder." "Yes." "And the chair." "Yes." "And—" He hesitated, glancing around the room, then back at her. "The final authority." "Yes." The manager stumbled back half a step, bumping into a display stand. "No," he said. "That's not possible. I would have known." She studied him. "Why?" "Because people like you don't." He stopped himself too late. The room collectively inhaled. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't accuse. She didn't even look angry. "You filled in the rest yourself," she said. The man in the suit closed the folder carefully, like handling something fragile. "We'll need to have a conversation," he said to the manager. "Now?" the manager asked, desperation creeping in. "In front of everyone?" she answered instead. "You didn't mind an audience earlier." Phones were fully out now. No one pretended otherwise. The moment had crossed the invisible line from uncomfortable to unforgettable. The manager shook his head. "This is being blown out of proportion." She took a step closer. "You denied service based on assumption. You escalated instead of listening. You involved security without cause." He tried to interrupt. "I was maintaining standards." "Your standards," she said quietly. "Not mine." The guard cleared his throat. "Sir," he said to the man in the suit, "she didn't do anything wrong." The manager spun on him. "Stay out of this." The man in the suit didn't raise his voice, but the authority in it cut clean. "He's already in it." Another man stepped forward now, older, grayer, eyes sharp with experience. He hadn't spoken yet, but when he did, the room listened. "Tell me," he said to the manager. "At what point did you ask who she was?" The manager's mouth opened. Closed. "At what point?" the older man continued. "Did you consider that you might be wrong?" At what point?" he said, voice hardening. "Did you decide she didn't belong?" The manager's shoulders sagged. "I was just doing my job." She exhaled softly. "No," she said. "You were protecting your comfort." The words struck deeper than any accusation. She turned away from him then, facing the staff instead. The sales associates stood frozen, eyes wide, shame flickering across some faces, relief across others. "I want everyone here to hear this," she said. "Not as punishment. As clarity." The room went still. "I don't expect perfection," she continued. "I expect curiosity. I expect respect. And I expect you to ask before you assume." The man in the suit nodded. "We'll be reviewing training protocols immediately." She glanced back at the manager. "It's too late for that to help you." He looked at her, eyes glossy now. "Please," he said. "I didn't know." She met his gaze evenly. "That was the problem." The older man removed a badge from the manager's jacket pocket and held it between two fingers. The plastic caught the light. "Employment is a privilege," he said. "Not a shield." The manager's breath came fast and shallow. "You can't do this on the spot." She spoke before anyone else could. "I can." The man hesitated only a second, then nodded. The badge was placed on the hood of the car. A soft click. Louder than it should have been. The manager stared at it, realization crashing down in waves. "You're firing me," he whispered. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she picked up the keys from the hood, turning them once in her hand. The metal glinted under the lights. "I came here today to test a car," she said. "I ended up testing something else." She looked at him one last time. "And you failed." Security stepped forward, not to remove her, but him. As he was escorted toward the doors, no one moved to help him. No one met his eyes. She watched until the doors slid shut behind him. Then she turned back to the car. "No," she said calmly. "About that test drive." The man in the suit swallowed hard. "Of course." But the room knew this wasn't over yet. Not quite. Because the real lesson, the one that would echo far beyond the showroom, was still coming. The doors closed behind him with a soft, automatic hiss, the sound almost polite for something so final. For a moment, no one moved. The showroom, once filled with casual chatter and manufactured enthusiasm, now felt like a place that had just witnessed something irreversible. The air was different, cleaner somehow, but heavier too. She stood still, keys resting lightly in her palm, her gaze following the reflection of the doors until it disappeared. There was no satisfaction on her face. No smile. Just a quiet steadiness, as if this outcome had never been in doubt. The man in the suit cleared his throat, the sound sharp in the silence. "I want to formally apologize," he said. "What happened today should never have happened." She turned toward him slowly. "Apologies matter," she said. "But systems matter more." He nodded immediately. "We'll conduct a full internal review. Training. Oversight. Everything." "I expect that," she replied. "And I expect accountability, not just statements." Another executive stepped forward, hands clasped tightly. "If you'd like privacy, we can clear the floor." She glanced around the showroom. At the customers who had watched her be dismissed. At the staff who had looked away. At the phones that were still recording, still capturing the aftermath. "No," she said. "Let them see this part too." A ripple of unease moved through the crowd, followed by something else: respect. She walked back to the blue coupe, placing one hand on the roof, grounding herself. "I didn't come here to make an example of anyone," she said. "I came here as a customer." The sales associate nearest her stepped forward hesitantly, voice trembling. I'm I'm sorry I didn't approach you earlier. She met the associate's eyes. Why didn't you? The associate swallowed. I assumed. I didn't want to get it wrong. She nodded slowly. You did get it wrong. But you're not alone in that. She turned back to the room. Assumptions are efficient, she said. They save time. They also destroy trust. No one argued. She handed the keys to the associate. I'll take this one, she said. Full package. No discounts. No favors. Yes, the associate said quickly. Of course. As paperwork was brought over, she leaned against the desk, finally allowing herself a breath. The adrenaline faded, replaced by something quieter, resolve. She'd faced moments like this before, in boardrooms and conference halls, in spaces where her presence was questioned before her credentials were read. This wasn't new. What was different was where it had happened. A customer stepped closer, a middle-aged woman with cautious eyes. I just want to say, she said softly, I'm glad you didn't leave. She offered a small smile. So am I. Another man nodded in agreement. That manager, he was out of line. She didn't respond to that. Instead, she signed the final document, her signature smooth and unhurried. The older executive watched her carefully. Is there anything else you need today? He asked. She considered the question, then nodded. Yes. He leaned in slightly. Anything. I want every employee here to understand something, she said. Not because of fear. Because of clarity. He gestured for attention. Everyone, please. Staff gathered slowly, some uneasy, some relieved. She faced them openly, no podium, no microphone. You work in a place that sells symbols, she said. Status. Success. Aspiration. But none of that matters if respect isn't universal. She let the words settle. You don't get to decide who belongs here based on appearance. You don't get to decide who is worthy of service based on comfort. And you don't get to hide behind policy when what you're really protecting is bias. No one spoke. No one looked away. She softened slightly. Mistakes can be corrected, she continued. But only if they're acknowledged. The executive nodded again. We'll make sure this is addressed company-wide. She turned back to the car. The associate handed her the keys, hands steadier now. Thank you, the associate said. For staying. She paused before taking them. Do better next time, she said gently. That's all. She slid into the driver's seat, the interior enveloping her in quiet luxury. The engine purred to life, smooth and powerful. As she eased the car forward, heads turned, not in judgment this time, but recognition. At the exit, she stopped briefly, rolling down the window. The man in the suit stepped closer. One more thing, she said. The next time someone like me walks in here. He nodded. They'll be treated like anyone else. She met his gaze. No, she said. They'll be treated like they belong. Because they do. She drove out into the sunlight, the showroom shrinking behind her. Inside, conversations resumed, but they were different now. Quieter. Thoughtful. Changed. Later that evening, footage of the incident would circulate, stripped of context by some, clarified by others. Opinions would clash. Debates would spark. But the truth would remain simple and immovable. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't demanded respect. She'd owned it. And as the blue coupe disappeared down the road, one lesson lingered in the space she left behind, impossible to ignore. Never mistake silence for insignificance.